folks, fits the crack. I hope you are all well today. In this video I am going to be showing you how to make a Scottish classic dessert, Clootie Dumpling. So this is one of the traditional British boiled puddings and it is rich, it is fruity, it's got some mixed spice in there so it's nice and spicy and it warms your belly and your heart. And this is going to be added into the Scottish sweets and insults compilation that I've got going on. It has been too long since I've done one of those, so those of you who have watched some of my videos before might know that I like to do some Scottish desserts with a little sprinkling of salt, and we've still got plenty of insults to get through. We do like a good funny insult here in Scotland. But in this video I'm going to be doing a bit of a quick fire round of the Scottish insult because I know some of the other videos have gone on a little bit. Speaking of going on a little bit, let's get cooking. So as I say, it is a boiled pudding, so the first thing we're going to do is get a big old pot and we're going to fill it with water. The next thing you want to do is to get a small plate and place this upside down into the pot. This seems a little odd. There's reason behind the madness. This is to stop the dumpling from sticking to the bottom of the pot, as can happen. Try to use a plate that doesn't completely cover the bottom of the pot. This is just because if you use one that does completely cover it, then it's going to stop the air bubbles from rising as the water boils, which means that a bit of pressure can build up under the plate and then you'll end up with the water splashing out of the bowl rather than just your little normal air bubbles that come up as something boils. Now it's pretty much going to be a case of getting all the ingredients together and mixing them in a bowl. So we're going to start by adding all of the dry ingredients, which are 450 grams of self-raising flour, 110 grams of fresh breadcrumbs, and make sure that that is the dry weight and not the weight of the bread before you allow it to dry. And also don't do what I did last week, which was to get all of your breadcrumbs prepared, leave the bread out, put it in a food processor, get it all ready to go, and then spill it all on the floor. 110 grams of sugar, and this might seem like quite a small amount of sugar for a sweet dish, but remember that we're going to be adding some mixed fruit and we're also going to be adding some treacle, so that's going to add a lot of sweetness, so don't be tempted to add any more sugar. 110 grams of vegetable suet, and I like to add 3 teaspoons of mixed spice. If you've got a bit of a sensitive palate, you can use just 2 teaspoons. Now you've got all the dry ingredients together, we can give those a stir around. Make sure everything's thoroughly mixed in. You can smell that mixed spice. Next you're going to get an apple. I like to use a Granny Smith apple, and we're going to grate that in to the mixture. And this adds a nice bit of moisture to the dumpling. Looks great. Well, mix that in. Next we'll add 500 grams of mixed fruit. Carefully stir that in because the bowl's a little full now. Then we can move on to the wet ingredients, which is about 2 dessert spoonfuls of treacle. I say about because anyone who has ever dealt with treacle before will know that measuring out treacle is akin to herding cats. It's like tar. You're also going to add 250 ml of milk. And with these two ingredients, I like to add half and then mix it in before adding the other half. Next, we're going to prepare the pudding cloth. You can use a muslin cloth. You could also use a thin tea towel. So I've got a muslin cloth here, and this is actually where the Clootie dumpling gets its name from, because in Scots, a cloot means a cloth. So it's a Clootie dumpling, a clothy dumpling. So what we're going to do with this is, we've got the water almost boiling now, and we're going to dunk it into the almost boiling water. Be careful of your fingers if you've not got asbestos fingers like me, because obviously almost boiling water is quite hot. We'll let that drain a little bit over the sink. Just give it a squeeze, just give it a wring out. Again, it's a bit hot, so watch your hands. Once that's mostly dry, you can lay it out onto a flat surface. Move everything else out of the way. Now you're going to cover the cloth in flour. Make sure you've got it well covered, as this is what is going to form the typical skin that you get on a Clootie dumpling. If you've had a Clootie dumpling before, you will know what I mean. It's got quite a thick skin. If you don't like a thick skin on yours, then there is a way later on that you can make it less skinny. You can make it have a less hard skin. There we go. Then we are going to move the contents of the bowl onto the cloth. And you can just start to slightly shape it into a round shape. It will form more of a shape as you tie the cloth together though later on. And I'm also just going to pop a little bit more flour onto the top. Okay. Again, that's going to give us a nice skin, because I like quite a sort of hard skin on mine. I quite like the skin. Then it's time to wrap the Clootie dumpling up. So just gather together the four corners of your cloth. You want to make sure you've got all the bits of cloth together, but you've left a little bit of space for the dumpling to rise. And then I've got a piece of string here, which I have folded in half. And we're going to wrap the string round a couple of times. Okay. Pull that tight. And then just fold it over. Let's just do a couple of very simple knots. Doesn't need to be anything fancy. but you do want it to be tight because you don't really want water getting in the top of here, as you don't want a soggy dumpling. Now everything's ready to go, so we can pop the dumpling into the pot, pop the lid on top, and we're going to leave that to cook for 3.5 to 4 hours. And while we wait, we can do our quick fire round of Scottish insults. We'll have to talk over the noise of the dumplings cooking because it is a bit noisy. The plate tends to rattle a bit, and this is what I meant by the plate sort of blocking the air bubbles that you'd usually get in there. It does tend to build up and then go. And that's with one that isn't totally covering the bottom. If it does totally cover the bottom, the water will just spill out of the edges. But we've got a lid on this one, so we're all right. Anyway, quick fire Scottish insults. Let's go. Dour-faced means same as sour-faced, miserable looking person. Clipe, a grass, a snitch, you're a wee clipe. A wee naff, an irritating or insignificant person, like a bug, a wee naff. Gobshite means someone who talks a load of nonsense. And raj, someone who is angry and a little bit crazy, like me when I've lost my phone. The water will evaporate over time, so make sure that you just top it up with some water every now and then, and make sure that it never gets any lower than halfway down the pudding. So about 1/4 of an hour before you take your Clootie dumpling off the heat, you'll want to preheat your oven to 180 degrees Celsius. Now that the dumpling is cooked, I'm going to put on some gloves to protect my hands because it's going to be very, very hot. And I'm just going to drain it over the sink first. Just let some of the excess water drain off. Okay, before we move it into some sort of dish, just anything that, you know, like a big bowl or a pot, pan, anything, because it's still going to be very wet, so what you get out of here will not quite be the finished result. So don't worry if it doesn't quite look right. So we just need to cut off the string, and open this up to reveal what will probably be a bit of a sloppy mess, to be honest. As I say, this is not the end result, it's still got some more cooking to do. So what we're now going to do is get a baking tray with some baking paper on it, and we are going to move the sloppy mess onto the baking tray. Lightly look a bit messy. Here we go. It should just slide off. There we go. Do this. Now you're going to put your sloppy mess into the oven for 15 minutes and it will come out looking not so much of a sloppy mess. Now, I mentioned earlier that if you don't like a skin on the Clootie dumpling, there is a way to not have the skin, and that is to not do this step of putting it in the oven. So the skin will form when you leave it. It will happen on its own if you leave it overnight. Traditionally, it would have been left in front of the fireplace. Now, obviously, we've got ovens. So if you like less of a skin, either leave it overnight or put it in the oven for a shorter length of time, but I would recommend 15 minutes generally. So once the dumpling is out of the oven, you can see that it's now a much deeper brown colour, and when it's straight out of the oven, it's perfect with some custard as a dessert. let's tuck in while it is fresh out of the oven. It is like a taste of Scotland, taste of home. The mixed spice sort of seeps into the custard. You get that classic mixed fruit and peel taste, and it's stodgy but in a good way. If you haven't tried it before, it's a little bit like a Christmas pudding. I'd say that's the closest thing I can think of. But truth be told, this actually isn't my favourite way to have Clootie Dumpling. My favourite way to eat Clootie Dumpling is, what you do is the next morning, when it's not quite as fresh and the skin's a little bit harder, what you do is you cut off a slice or a few slices and sprinkle it with a little brown sugar and fry it up in some butter in a pan and have it as part of your full Scottish breakfast. And that is what I'm going to be doing in my next video, next Sunday that will be coming out. I'm going to be doing a full Scottish breakfast mukbang, and it will be along with the Clootie Dumpling, lots of breakfast items, bacon, sausage, you name it, and of course I'll have some Thai scones as well. So the recipe for that I did, got me about a year ago now, so I'll link to that below as well. I think that was the first Scottish video I did, first Scottish recipe video. Anyway, yes, so I do hope you'll come along for that next week, but for now, bye. Get the contents of the bowl onto the cloth. Why is this so much harder than it said and done? There we go.